there was these two twins. They're called the Carver.
Cavender.
They're from Phoenix, Arizona. I think Phoenix, Arizona. They're from Arizona. They did play in Fresno. They were great players at Fresno State. Then this year was their first year that they transferred the U to Miami, another one of my teams. But the NIL deal came out. They're the first players to get affected by the new rules that are going on with the alma maters and stuff like that. Did you guys do any research about this? Do you guys know what I'm talking about, Amos and Alan?
Yeah, well, just a little bit. Did it have something to do with representation, or was it? I can't remember exactly why they got slapped on the wrist through the move. It had something to do with.
They met up with an alma mater from the University of Miami. Before I guess all that stuff was happening, some stuff happened that they weren't supposed to talk to these people or something like that. But the representation, right away, as soon as, what a big coincidence that no big teams wanted you at the beginning, but now remember the transfer portal and NIL deals, and now alma mater reached out to them from the University.
So but that was because they actually took Fresno State to the tournament last year, right?
Yeah.
Right. And they were, one of them was highly recruited, and the reason that they chose Fresno State was because the other one wasn't recruited to some of the major universities, right?
Yes.
Okay. They definitely need to put some parameters on this thing. And I think that's where they went wrong is that they didn't really look at it from a perspective that it was going to create such havoc, and now they're trying to throw a bunch of guidelines on it that that are probably everybody's probably going to be affected by it at some point in time, during the process, as long as they're in college. And I think that's where it's gotten a little out of hand as far as the money that these kids are making, and some of these kids come from nothing and now they got a bunch of money, and and I think that what happens is that they kind of have this mentality that they're untouchable now because they got this money. And I think it's a great thing for college sports because they've been taken advantage of for so long, and now they have an opportunity to get some of that back. But I think that they rushed to get it going, and now they're having to put the brakes on it so that they can actually define this thing. They didn't really look at it hard enough, in my opinion, to keep it not necessarily under control, but to actually make it so that what am I looking for? I think the problem is that they haven't educated these kids on finances and having money and knowing what to do with it, because they're blowing through this money like crazy. I was reading about one kid, I can't remember where he's at, but he bought his mom an exotic car. He's driving an exotic car, and I think he got like $200,000, but he's like blown through that money already.
Well, to that point, the NCAA has always had, this has been going on for decades, right, Alan, as far as them basically, throwing a blind eye, basically, acting like, oh, we don't see that, these players are getting money, and we all know, everyone knows it's been going on for a while as far as certain players getting paid.
Oh, yeah.
As far as the contact period, your team's not supposed to be contacting a certain individual. Well, we all know that goes down constantly, whether it's with you or whether it's you contacting someone else to contact them, right? It's just too easy. And so I feel like it was always moving in that direction as far as paying the athlete. And I think, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I definitely saw a lot of the pros as far as certain athletes getting paid because these universities, these schools are getting so much money off the athletes, right? Off their names and likeness and their image. But, I really do agree with you, Alan, as far as, it's kind of gone out of hand because a lot of these young athletes, are just getting a ridiculous amount of money that they're not used to seeing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what I figure would happen, and it only seems like it's happening, is you're basically a lot of these 4-star kids, a lot of these 5-star kids end up being bust, right? As we all know, right? They're not for sure things. And some of these kids are being offered a ridiculous amount of money and wages to go to these kids. And so what happens then is, especially in football, you have this kid who's behind you. Maybe he's a 5-star, you're a 4-star. And guess what? He's on the bench, not nearly as good as you, but he's making a stupid amount of money, right? And so to your point, Alan, it's like, man, a lot of these kids, you're a 4-star, 5-star athlete, you're getting recruited by these schools, your ego is already so high and inflated. And I'm not even blaming them, because I remember how it was being, a student athlete, and that was in high school. And I was a starter in varsity. And I remember thinking I was the guy. I was so cool, and no one could stop me. And I was getting, again, community college offers, and JC looks, so again, JC looks and D3 stuff. And I remember thinking, oh man, I'm the coolest kid in the world. And I was just a D3 guy, right? Not even really a D3 guy. And so imagine if you're a D1, and not only that, you're making so much money now, and kids talk. Kids are going to mention, oh, I got this car, I got this, and then not only that, your friends, your family, they're going to want a little piece of that pie too. So
Absolutely.
Nasty situation, Efren. What do you think the NCAA should do, or is there anything they can do, or do you think it's going to get controlled throughout eventually? What do you think? What do you think?
First of all, E, give us your thoughts on the Cavender twins, because you actually know a little bit more about this whole situation. Okay.
Yeah, so I followed. I've been following them since they got to Fresno. These girls, one of them is a great basketball player. I think she can make it to the WNBA. The sister, she's a good role player. But when you put them together, man, these girls are very knowledgeable.
Magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
and
magic.
They know where both of them each other are. They can make plays. I never seen the girls basketball team has always been good at Fresno, but they were a whole nother level when these girls were here. And I didn't blame them for going to the University of Miami. When they went to the University of Miami, I haven't really watched them play out there, but they're doing good from what I hear, and I don't think they should get blamed for doing what they're doing. They started out here in Fresno. They did their part. They made our college team look good, and if I'm not gonna lie to you, man, these girls can ball some of the best girls out there. I think if they're two good guards, I can tell you that right now.
Wasn't the one you're talking about that has got all the talent? Wasn't she recruited? She was actually recruited by Miami, wasn't she?
She was the one who was recruited by Miami,
right?
Very heavily. But they didn't want to separate.
Was that the top college that was recruiting her though?
I don't believe so.
Did she get any looks from like Texas, Tennessee, Connecticut, or anybody like that?
I think she was getting looked at by.
Well, she's from Phoenix, right?
Stanford,
Arizona.
Yeah.
The girls' Arizona team was looking at her.
Okay.
And Pac-12 women basketball is completely different than men's basketball, right? Like Pac-12 women basketball is a really good conference. It might be arguably, I guess, basically, but one of the top 3 conferences, completely different than the men's. So yeah, to your point, Efren, she probably was getting offered by those top.
But the thing is, but the thing. Sorry to interrupt you, Amos. But the thing with them is that those top teams didn't want the sister, and I think
they wanted to play together, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they ended up at Fresno State, because the other sister actually had gotten some offers from them, didn't they?
Yeah, and the thing is that they were going to start automatically.
Yeah. What's interesting though is, to my knowledge, and I checked maybe a few weeks back, so it's been a while. You're definitely more on their. You would know more about them currently than I would. But I remember seeing that the 1-star sister is still doing her thing. She's still scoring a lot, having a really good season. The other sister definitely seems like she's. I don't know if she's starting, and she's not playing as much as she was in the past, which makes sense, right? Because I'm sure Miami's a efficient, better program than Fresno. But it is interesting though, because it just seems like the one still doing really well, but the other just didn't seem like she was playing. She's still playing a decent.
So there's still some. I watched a little bit of their highlights, and there's still some highlights that when the sisters are on the court together, they know where they're at and they play good. But that other sister, she's not at the. It's true. She's not at the level that they're supposed to be at. Like, I think they should have split up. I think one sister should have stayed back, and the other one should have went where she has to
But they're
go.
both, but they're only sophomores though, right, bro? They
Yes,
still got 2 years of eligibility after this season, right?
yeah. So you don't even know.
Okay, so
And one thing I can tell you
so
this
they
right
could.
now. And one thing I can tell you this right now is the sisters. They're not even taking it. I think it's gonna get taken off because they're not even taking it back. I follow them on Instagram, and they're not even like they talk about it a little bit on there. They're just saying like people are like trying to spread rumors to them and stuff like that. So they're not even
So
taking
it
it.
actually had to do with like boosters, alumni. They
Yeah,
were meeting with them or something
yeah.
like that.
They're reaching
Okay,
out.
so how was that any different than in the past, though? Like you talk about, men's college sports, and they do like Amos was saying, they do that stuff all the time. We know that if there was payments under the table and all this other kind of stuff, and nothing happens, and now all of a sudden, just
They
because
want to.
they're talking with somebody, they're going to get a slap on the wrist now.
Yeah, I don't know. As I said, to me, it's kind of the NCAA is just trying to get their money. I'm sorry to say it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about
NCAA,
that. They're
and this goes not just in college basketball, but this goes in college football, college baseball, college everything. NCAA always wants something out of it, and that sucks for the players.
Absolutely, bro. They're losing a lot of money. I mean, they're still going to make a lot of money, but they're losing a lot of money because
Yeah,
these kids, like Amos was saying, you could be a 3-4 star athlete, and you're making a lot of, and you're getting a lot of money out of this NIL. You
exactly.
know?
So when I was talking, so there's another thing I went to because I'm a big video game player and NCAA Amos, that's one of the games we've been waiting for to come out. And
Right.
the thing is, they still haven't been able to finish that game up because NCAA is still fighting for names. And I'm like, how are you gonna do that? Let these players make their name. Like they're not. Come on, these guys are putting their bodies out there in college football. They're not gonna. Most of these kids are not gonna make the NFL. They're not. So right now, we know about them. We can say right now I can name you probably 7 or 8 players that we thought were gonna be great in the NFL and were bust, and not even bust, just became ordinary players. Like we could do the kid from Oregon, Anthony, the fast kid, that was with Marcus Mariota, the one that would do spectacular things. DeAnthony
Yeah, the
Thomas.
kid from Southern California.
Yeah,
Yeah,
DeAnthony Thomas. Where is he at now? Nobody. No.
nowhere. He might be on a practice squad somewhere, but that's
Yeah,
about it, man.
and then
Wow. But if you guys remember, and to your point, Efren, like he wasn't that guy in the NFL, but man, he was an absolute superstar. Like people would say that he was arguably the best player in college football, right? And so that's why those athletes like him, right? You want to get paid while you're on top because you might not have that future in the NFL, right?
it's also with the kid from
Absolutely, bro. That's the big thing. I mean,
the
think
kid from
about it.
West
Think about
Virginia.
this. What was that 30 for 30 on the University of Miami?
Oh, you,
Where
yeah.
what they have on that one team in the 80s where didn't they have like 17 draft
Uh,
picks in like the
the
first three
first round.
rounds? And those guys all got nice little bonuses, and all of
Yeah.
them are broke now, bro. All of them.
Because why? Because that's the only
Because
time
they
they made
didn't
money.
they didn't get any help. They didn't get any financial learning. They didn't know how to handle that money. They wanted to take care of. Look at Allen Iverson. How much money did that kid make
A
during
lot.
his career? How many contracts did he sign? And
A
how
lot.
big were those contracts? And now he's dependent on a clause that Reebok put in his contract that he's going to get $50 million when he's retirement age. And that's the only reason why that kid's going to have any money, because he's broke now.
See, and that's something that I just don't understand nowadays that the NCAA let these kids learn right now about money that they
Yeah.
get. I'm not
And
gonna
that's
pay
and
them.
that's the biggest thing that they throw at you when they start trying to defend the fact that they're getting all this money off of these kids, is that they're getting a free education, but they're putting them through underwater basket weaving classes and
One thing I can tell
basketball theory or some kind of playwright classes and stuff. They're not learning anything in those classes.
One
That's
thing I
because
can
they
tell
can
you,
go in there and
yeah,
they can
yeah.
sleep and they can get some girl homework for them.
And one thing I can tell you right now, a lot of these people, and there's a lot of people that don't know about student athletes. We all see them playing football, but remember, most of these kids are going to class, going to work out, going to practice, coming home, and some don't even stay at the dorms. Some stay at an apartment, and whatever money they're getting as a help for these kids are getting paid because the bills they got to pay, and they can't work to pay. So most of them don't even have money to
The
spend out
the
there.
average guy, Evan, right? Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah,
average guy, especially in season, like
Yeah, the average.
in season,
Yeah.
it's a full time job for these kids, man. Like they're busy, like
Yeah, it is, and they expect them to keep the grades up and go to classes and things like that, and they're doing 2-a-days. They're doing, they're in the weight room. They're studying the playbooks, and it's just ridiculous. It's
and then
ridiculous.
like I said, I know a couple of players like that, man, and sometimes I wish stuff would turn out different for them, and sometimes people don't make it, but now they're making it in life, and I'm proud of them. But like I said, just let these kids, like, they deserve it. They deserve it.